All eyes will be on Cooperstown, New York this weekend. The 2023 induction ceremony into the National Baseball Hall of Fame takes place on Sunday, 1:30 Eastern. Wall-to-wall coverage right here live on MLB Network, coverage beginning at noon. Scott Rolen and Fred McGriff making their way into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. I am pleased to be joined now by Larry Bowa, who knows Scott Rolen intimately. Of course, Mr. Bowa managing Scott Rolen with the Phillies back in 2001. Larry, great to see you. I love that when I get to have a conversation with you. And let's talk a little bit about your third baseman with the Phillies and Scott Rolen. What do you think makes him a Hall of Famer?
Well, obviously his ability, Alana, but besides Mike Schmidt, I played next to the greatest third baseman ever, in my opinion. Scott Rolen, defensively, is right there with Mike, maybe has a little better arm than Mike Schmidt. The only difference between these two is that Schmidt had more power. Scott Rolen was a tremendous competitor. Played the game the way you're supposed to play it, played 9 innings, 27 outs every single night, never gave an at-bat away. Just the way that his professionalism every time he put his foot on the field. This guy went out there to win every single game. I can't say enough about this guy. I'm very happy that he's in the Hall of Fame. I think it should have been a lot earlier, but I'm sure he's going to enjoy this weekend in Cooperstown.
And Larry, it's interesting that you say that because you believe he should have been in the Hall of Fame a lot earlier. 17 seasons in the show, but Scott Rolen going into Cooperstown was not a slam dunk. What do you think was the knock against him as far as being a third baseman getting into the Hall?
I got to think maybe home runs. I think defensively there shouldn't have been no knock because besides Mike Schmidt, this guy plays third base as well as anybody. You can throw him in there with Arenado. Tremendous arm, great base runner. This guy could score from first on a double. If you needed a stolen base, he would do that. That's why I look at his numbers and everything, and I'm sort of flabbergasted that it took this long. And I know there's not a lot of third basemen, but he's very deserving of this award. And he was our quiet leader. I mean, if somebody stepped out of line, you didn't need a coach or anybody. He's sort of like a Chase Utley as far as taking command of the dugout. He would get his point across behind closed doors with whoever didn't play the game the way he thought they should be playing it. But I'm just glad that he finally got in.
You know, Larry, you mentioned Chase Utley, and we know, in my opinion anyway, that Chase Utley played the game the way it should be played. And I think about you when I think about Chase in terms of grit and fire and, just kind of a quiet leader Chase was. He didn't say a lot. He's not a rah-rah guy, but I kind of feel like Scott Rolen is that way too. Can you explain a little bit more about perhaps Scott Rolen's grit and just his determination and kind of leading by example, not necessarily with his words?
Oh, there's no question on it. And I'm going to give you a good example. If he thought a pitcher was throwing at him and he got hit, he would calmly put his bat and throw it on the on-deck circle. God forbid there was a ground ball hit and there's a possible double play, because the shortstop or second baseman, very clean, would be knocked somewhere. I mean, this guy took his frustrations out on the middle infielders. You very seldom, I can't remember him ever charging the mound, but I do remember a whole lot of shortstops and second basemen picking themselves up off the ground and not being able to complete a double play. But little things like that, he would go up to a guy if you're down 3 runs in the 9th or 8th inning. And he didn't take a strike leading off the inning. He would make his point. He wouldn't do it in front of everybody. He would let them know, hey, we need base runners. You need to take a strike in that situation. But the guys sort of gravitated to him. He was a very quiet individual now. It's hard to get to know Scotty, but once you got to know him, you knew what he was all about. He did nothing but all he talked about was winning type baseball. And, at that time, we just started to play good baseball in 2001. And I think Scotty wanted to go to a team where, hey, we got a shot to get to a World Series.
Yeah, you mentioned 2001, you just started playing, and I don't know that the Phillies and Scott Rolen kind of ended in good favor on both sides of the coin, but I think going to the Cardinals, Larry, and you would know better than I think that's really where Scott Rolen blossomed. Obviously, he's going into the Hall in a Cardinals cap, but what kind of player did he become once he left Philly?
You know what, Alana? I think one of the big things is they had a few more quote-unquote players that had been established on that team, and I don't think Scott felt he had to be the guy. Whereas when he was with us, I mean, I look at our roster there, and he was, Jimmy Rollins was just coming up. Utley was just coming up. So Scott felt like, hey, if I don't do it, we're not going to be very successful here. And I think taking that burden off his shoulders enabled him to relax just a little bit more and play the game the way he was capable of playing. The one game that stands out in my mind, Alana, was the first game back. We were the first team to play after 9/11, and we played Atlanta, and he hit 2 home runs, and he never liked the accolades. If he hit a home run, he didn't want to show up the other team, and he hated to take bows. And it was basically we pushed him out because it was a standing ovation. He came out and tipped his cap. I know he felt awkward doing it because he didn't like to do that stuff against the opposition, but he understood the magnitude of that game coming off 9/11, and it was quite a moment. And I'm sure Scott remembers that very well.
Hall of Famers, Larry, fail 70% of the time. Scott Rolen is a Hall of Famer, but even in offensive slumps, his defense never took a day off. And as much as we make about Adrian Beltre, future Hall of Famer in my opinion, about his defense, Scott Rolen had 3 more Gold Gloves than Beltre. What made him so good defensively?
He was very quick first step on. John Vukovic, who was one of my coaches, probably helped Scott more than anything when he first came up. For a big guy, it's hard for big guys to get down in there. Scott Rolen had a quick first step, tremendous backhand. His arm was off the charts, Alana. This guy had a cannon. Tremendous range going left and right. Those big guys usually range-wise are a little limited. He had quick first step off the ball. Like I said, the only difference between him and Mike Schmidt, Scotty probably had a stronger arm, but everything else to me graded out even.
It's crazy to think that when you talk about Mike Schmidt in that way. All right, I want to talk a little bit about you, Mr. Bowa. I loved watching, getting to know you when we were together in Los Angeles, but obviously a tremendous career. But I have a really good friend here in Rhode Island that absolutely adores you. Dean Garganese is one of your biggest fans. He wore number 10 from Little League all the way through high school. And he brought to my attention that you had actually been cut 3 straight years in high school, not making the team. They didn't think you were big enough. Well, you showed them. Just what type of message does that send, that if you are good enough, they will find you? You went on to play ball in college and obviously a nice big league career.
Well, that my dad helped me a lot because he played professional baseball, got as high as AAA. And when the coach told me that I was too small, he said, in baseball, there's always room for big guys, little guys. If you stay in your lane and do the things you're supposed to do. In my situation, hey, catch the ball, be able to hit and run, lay down a bunt, go first to third, catch everything, steal bases. I did those little things. And I also had 2 big guys hitting behind me, and Mike Schmidt and Greg Lazinski. So I fit in nice on that team. But I try to give a message to kids. Hey, if you got a dream of becoming a professional baseball player, don't let someone tell you your size is a detriment to you, because if you have a big heart and a strong baseball mind, you can do anything that you want to reach out and do. And I was very fortunate in Philly to have a good career here. And I'm still working with them, and my fingers are crossed right now. We're starting to play good baseball. Hopefully we get to that playoff round once again and go deep into October like we did last year.
No question about it. Just ask Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve. Larry Bowa, it's always great to be able to talk to you. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for the insight on Hall of Famer Scott Rolen.
All right, Alana, you take care.